I practice in Toronto with the law firm of Greenspan, Humphrey Levine. I am in my 6th year of practice and I am a Windsor grad, class of 2003. So when we're talking about specific sections of the Charter, one thing that I think is important to keep in mind is that the Charter takes on life through the courts. So those sections are interpreted day in, day out by our courts, our criminal courts. And it's the interpretation of the Charter that really gives it its meaning. And of course, the final word lies with the Supreme Court of Canada. And there's a number of examples, I can say, in criminal law recently where the trend has been for courts to interpret those rights more narrowly. And one example is a case called Sinclair. And that's a case that deals with a detainee's rights to consult with counsel. And that's the right under Section 10B of the Charter. And in that case, what the court's effectively done is, in most cases, a detainee has one shot to talk to a lawyer, one opportunity. And following that, an interrogation may commence and go on for hours and hours, and that person will not or does not have a constitutional right to have another phone call and talk to a lawyer. And except for some circumstances, the court has carved out a few exceptions to that. But that's an example of a narrowing of the 10B right. And there's many other cases where I would say that trend has happened. But what's also interesting to keep in mind is that in interpreting the Charter, that's done by judges. Judges are human, judges are people. And some judges take a more liberal interpretation of the Charter and some take a more conservative interpretation. And if you look at the composition of our Supreme Court and you look at the cases that have been decided more recently, they don't always agree. So how our Charter is being interpreted and how it's coming to play really does depend on the composition of that court. So, and of course the selection of judges is political. And at the end of the day, the case law has shown that the Charter really does sort of grow and breathe and change over time and evolve. So I think that's, when we talk about how effective the sections are, I think we have to really keep in mind that it's the interpretation of the courts that really brings those sections to life. So in my view, a lot of the recent cases are the narrowing trend we're seeing across various Charter rights, and it's concerning from the perspective of the defense bar. And we'll have to see what the future holds.